Hey YouTube, Francis here. Just another video that I thought I might talk a little bit about taking responsibility in relation to our own free will. So if you are Wiccan or contemporary witchcraft orientated, no doubt you would have heard of the phrase "and harm none, do as they will," coming from the Wiccan Rede, which has had numerous interpretations over the years in relation to what it actually means. Right from taking responsibility and doing what you want, to being really confined to basically love and light interpretations, because we're not allowed to harm anything or anyone. Now, depending on where you come from, I personally disagree with both interpretations, and I do explain it in depth in my book, Contemporary Witchcraft. But the underlying aspect of "and harm none, do as they will" is about taking responsibility for yourself. And indeed, I have a section on the law of self-responsibility as it has been described, I guess, in some teachings over the years. This is not specifically solely for Wicca, traditional witchcraft, contemporary witchcraft, insert here whatever name you wish to use, even neo-paganism, because a lot of the ethic and moral compasses tends to overlap. But it gives you food for thought as to why taking self-responsibility is important, especially when you are endeavouring to walk upon, I would say, any path, spiritual path in particular, that has a magical aspect to it, or even just a normal spiritual path, because the whole aspect of spirituality is reassessing our own self, our boundaries, our own moral compass, and projecting that out into the world and looking at what we are actually receiving back into ourselves and how much responsibility we actually do take. In more recent as in probably the last 5-10 years, there has been a lot of, I suppose it would be termed as spiritual bypassing, where we tend to focus on a more sort of lofty, higher than thou, holier than thou sort of attitude, almost denying the physical self, and this true disconnect between real life stuff, like anger, emotions like that, and this pretense, I guess, of eternal happiness. That's all. Everything is wrapped up in, I don't know, pink cotton wool, and everything else is sort of glossed over. The pain, the anguish, the heartache, as to reflect it to a less elevated soul, so to speak. Again, I disagree with that. We are incarnated in physical bodies on this physical realm for a reason. A teacher of mine a number of years ago did indicate, and you've probably heard the saying, that we are spiritual beings having a physical incarnation. And the reason why our soul has incarnated, materialized in this physical realm, is for it to actually experience, because souls cannot experience in their highly evolved manner. So when we experience things in this physical realm, we need to take responsibility of it. And if we do walk a path that does involve manipulation of energies, in particular magic, then we need to take self-responsibility, especially as we open up more and more to the understanding and realization of energetic flow. Having said that, I can't be so bold as saying that not every so-called spiritual person that I have met actually truly understands the concept of energy flow. Even, dare I say, some healers, and that might seem a little bit ironic, especially if they're an energetic healer. It comes down to how they are taught or what they were taught in relation to energy. And I have made a video in relation to Reiki in particular that I feel the whole concept of Reiki has been watered down to more along the lines of train the trainer goal, as opposed to a true bona fide healer who understands energy and energy flow and directing it. And I see this shortcutting or misunderstanding, I wouldn't say misuse, maybe it is a misuse of energy right across the board within magical people as well. Learning something one weekend and then pertaining to be an expert the next weekend. Anybody who has worked with energy will know that you have to spend time to actually understand the current, understand the process, and especially if you are being initiated or attuned, as you are saying with Reiki or a lot of the healing modalities, you have to assimilate that energy within your own being first, and that can take up to 6 months to even 18 months for it to properly assimilate. So people just seem to be so much in a rush. Again, there is more of a emphasis on train the trainer, making money out of teaching other people, as opposed to fully embodying the energetic current. And I guess the flow and effect is becoming evident. Anyway, self-responsibility. The universal law of attraction states that we attract all into our lives. Therefore, we are ultimately responsible for what we exchange with others, including thoughts, actions, and words. Hence, the law of self-responsibility. When we expand upon this idea of self-responsibility, we find ourselves returning to Aleister Crowley's thelemic oath, and that is, because I'm just reading part of this section, I can find it. Do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will. And I comment on that because it is believed that the Wiccan Rede and None as thou wilt has actually been adapted or influenced by Crowley's thelemic oath. And often the oath is quoted if just the first part, do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, without the second lines, love is the law, love under will, with the will being in relation to our higher consciousness, our higher self, which is the underlying pinning of the whole aspect to it. Okay, I got a little bit distracted. So, whilst not a true part of the teachings within contemporary witchcraft, considering it is from this oath that the short version of the Rede and None as thou wilt originates, it seems appropriate to expand on its meaning. And that is this law of self-responsibility that comes in with the law of threefold return, also the ethic of attainment, and other guiding moral compasses that are found within contemporary witchcraft. So we all have this element of free will, but what does that actually mean? I guess it could mean that we have the free will to do or not to do whatever we want to do. However, we need to take responsibility of our actions for our free will. So yes, you could stay in bed all day, not eat, and just wait for death to come. Or you could drive at a riskless speed through modern suburbia, putting life and limb at danger for everyone around you. That's your free will. But it comes down to the consequences and taking pure self-responsibility for them. It's no one else's fault. No one made you to lie in bed all day. No one made you drive recklessly down the middle of suburbia. You chose to do these things. It can also be simply as feeling that you have to do all these things that you really don't want to. And coming up to Christmas or solstice, spending time with people that you don't like, eating food that you probably don't like, or putting up with hugs and kisses from people you don't like. It's your free will. You could go with the flow, continue doing the things that you don't like, or you can draw lines in the sand, but take responsibility for the consequences that you will receive, especially from people who don't quite understand. So no one can actually take away our own free will. What we tend to do, however, is give it away. And we may not even realize that this is what we are doing when we continue to do things that we don't like to do, continue meeting with people that we don't want to meet with, continue turning up for a job that we have no interest in, that we find very soul-destroying. We have free will, and we're actually giving away our free will by keeping ourselves in that cycle, in that situation. The reason that we turn up could be we feel obligated, we need the money, we need the job, etc., etc. But it's also that we're giving away our free will. Every single decision that we make, and there's really no exceptions, is going to have consequences. Every single decision that we make, more than likely, someone is going to disagree, while others will agree. So we need to sort of draw the line in the sand as to who is more important. Being truth to ourselves and what we want, and taking full responsibility of the reactions other people may have when we flick our coattails, so to speak, when we enforce our boundaries, or continue giving away our free will so not to upset the apple cart. Now, we're not responsible with respect to how other people react. And that's probably the hardest thing or lesson that we do find, is that especially in this day and age, we tend to be oversensitive. You can look at somebody in a way that they may interpret you looking at them meaning something else. You can say something and someone will take offense to it, regardless of the fact as to whether that comment was directed at them or not. We could also make a comment or a joke or even a comeback, and someone takes that the wrong way. So it's all about taking responsibility and how you're going to react. If you are going to be emotionally invested in people, especially people who don't give you anything, where you seem to be forever providing them with energy in various ways, shapes and forms. When you draw lines in the sand, naturally it's those sort of people who are going to take offence, be upset, etc. Because I suppose you have stopped becoming the cash cow, the freeloading avenue for them. And I find that all the time. And part of me laughs because in a way it reflects a lot back on that individual. And it's interesting to see how they retaliate or what their reactions are. Because often it's very personal, as if they are greatly and deeply offended. They have been slighted. They are now the victim. So what they're actually doing is projecting their own hurt externally and seeing that as a mirror, and it's bouncing back at them. Instead of, depending on the situation, maybe making a joke, seeing this funny thing or the humour in the situation, or taking on board that, okay, yes, maybe that comment is not actually directed at me, but I am reacting to it, so there's obviously something there that I'm identifying with. So let me just sit and process that. And this is, I guess, in a way, what shadow work, shadow self is about, is that we're going to get these little guides all the time. And a lot of it, again, is taking self-responsibility. Not every comment is about us from other people. If we are going to make a comment about someone else and they take offence, we need to take responsibility. However, as I said, we are still not responsible for how someone reacts, just as long as we can stand in our own truth. This is universal law. This is basic law of the universe, of energy, whatever you want to perceive it. It's not passing the blame. It's not that the whole world is out to get us or this person is out to get us. Woe is me. And this is the problem of victim mentality, is that they do tend to think that everything's out to get them, and that's how they get sympathy, and that's the energy that they actually thrive on. It, again, as I said, is a projection of something that's lacking within them, an insecurity and a need for attention, even though they may not actually see it because they're too busy playing the victim. Cause and effect. Even not realizing or understanding or even accepting that their own lashing out, victimization, projection also has consequences. And again, it comes down to taking ownership. If you want to play the victim, if this is how you want to live your life, get the attention that you desperately need, then take responsibility for it. We are going to be faced with situations and decisions that we don't like, that are unfavourable to our current mindset all the time. And I guess it shows a level of spiritual maturity as to how we deal with them. But we're all human. And even I am known, and I admit it, to make slightly underhanded comments, but I do make an effort to never name a person. That way, no one truly realizes or knows who I'm talking about. Maybe the person I'm referring to is actually me. I'm far from perfect. But it's interesting when I make a comment, might be slightly underhanded, their own sort of level of guilt of an individual and how they react to it, and then their reactions and their projections. But it all comes down to taking self-responsibility and knowing that people, or certain individuals in my life, will react in some way, in a certain way, when I post comments that, or if I might be a little bit too ambiguous in relation to a comment and someone picks up on it and it totally interprets it a completely different way, I could either engage in the energy exchange of trying to justify my existence, or just sadly let them do their own thing. Because as I said, they need to take self-responsibility as well. So I'm completely off the train of thought that I was going to talk about. So I'm just going to end this with what I was intending to talk about our own free will. Now, every decision that we make, and I've said this, is going to come with consequences. A reaction to each cause. This is the basic law of cause and effect, which has been interpreted or influenced as karma, threefold law of return, Wiccan Rede, and even Crowley's the Mimic Oath. It's not about passing the blame or that someone else or something else is out to get us. It is the basic universal law of cause and effect, in that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's usually these potential consequences that cause us to decide on doing something that we don't want to do. When we are all faced with such situations or decisions, a split corner appears in our consciousness between wanting or needing to do something specific or not doing it at all. Doing it in order to avoid the consequences specifically. This split reshapes our perceptions and how we face this decision, from changing it from want to have to. And that's really interesting. Again, coming up to this time of the year, we as in the collective, we tend to, there's a possibility, have a common trait of removing the want to, our free will to have to, an obligation. We have to spend time with family. We have to go to the work Christmas party. We have to do this, buy this, eat this, visit this. Thus removing free will, the want to. We say have to in order to avoid consequences. So this is our scapegoat. We are trained also from a very early age that to do things that we want, especially for women, is self-centered, is wrong, self-indulgent, selfish, because it takes us away from the social group, the herd mentality, and at the very least it makes us bad. When we do things that we want, and I've had that on a number of occasions when it's been accused of not being nice because I'm not doing something for someone else. Because if I was nice, I would do it. That's the assumption that I would hand over my will for somebody else. And on the other hand, we are greatly awarded, especially women again, maybe not, in this day and age, when we self-sacrifice. When we put aside all our own personal wants, needs, desires, time being the most important one, for the sake of what other people want, demand, expect. Again, I have that quite often. I work full time. I do a lot of markets with my Lunar Noir products, with my beading, with my books. I have to do research for my writing. I also do healings, readings. I have an interest in metaphysics, the occult, witchcraft. Yes, there are people who want to learn from me. But all of that actually takes time. Write up course notes, do research. It's not like there is an app these days. So it's not always possible for me to slip my fingers and have things ready when someone wants it. I do my best, but I am human after all. And the number of times when I've had to cancel something because I've overcommitted myself or have not had time because of other pressing needs, such as work. And the nature of work that I do is very changeable, so my hours change a lot. And the response back, especially from people who just expect to turn up and have everything presented for them. So they're not taking self-responsibility, yet they expect the self-sacrifice ongoing and constant. This self-sacrifice, or changing the want to need to, so it goes in the sense of obligation, duties. It's a great term to use in order to avoid consequences, of avoiding taking responsibility for our actions, because we had to do something. We say we had to when we want to visit a relative and we don't want to, instead of being quite honest and simply saying, I don't want to go. So it's something to think about. Also need to take the other side of the story in. You might not want to do something, like visit a relative, but you also need to take the consequences of if you don't visit them. Especially in this day and age where borders and visiting our nearest and dearest are changing very quickly. What would happen if we couldn't see that person never again? Sometimes we need to really take a deeper meaning, deeper look at the situation. Again, move from the head to the heart. And even take responsibility as our energy moves out and how that affects other people as well. We may not be responsible for them, for their reactions, but we are responsible in that we are all interconnected and our actions always have consequences. I have no idea what I've been rattling on about for the last half hour, but I hope that has given you a bit of food for thought. Blessings.